There is something moving through the air today, something that does not quite have a name, but that you can feel, if you sit still long enough, and let your heart grow quiet. It is not the wind, and it is not a sound you can hear with your ears. It is more like a trembling, a soft and steady vibration that rises up from somewhere deep beneath the ordinary surface of your daily life. You have been feeling a little unsettled lately. If you have been waking up in the middle of the night, with a heaviness on your chest, that you cannot quite explain. If you have been looking at the person you love and sensing that there is something they are not telling you, then this message has found you, at exactly the right moment. It was always going to find you today. The universe has been steering it toward you with great care, and with great intention, the way a river knows how to find the sea, even when the path is long and winding and full of unexpected turns. There is a secret being carried in your world right now. It is not a small secret, and it is not a casual one. It is the kind of secret that a person holds with both hands, pressing it close to their chest in the dark, breathing around it carefully, the way you breathe around a bruise that has not yet healed. Your soulmate, the person who has been placed in your life by forces far greater than coincidence or chance, is holding this secret inside them, with a kind of quiet desperation, that they have become very skilled at hiding. They have had to become skilled at hiding it, because the weight of it is enormous, and the fear attached to it is even larger than the secret itself. The secret is this. They were cheated on, they were betrayed in a deep and devastating way, by someone they trusted completely, and loved with everything they had. They gave that person their whole heart, the soft and unguarded version of themselves, that most people never get to see, and that person took what was given and treated it carelessly, cruelly, as though it had no value at all. The betrayal was not a small misunderstanding, or a moment of weakness that ended in apology and repair. It was a thorough and brutal kind of betrayal, the kind that does not just break a relationship, but breaks something inside the person who is being deceived. It reaches into the parts of a person where their sense of safety lives, where their belief in their own worth is stored, and it shakes those foundations until cracks run all the way through. Your soulmate has never told you this. They have kept it tucked away in a private place inside themselves, behind a door they keep carefully locked. Every time you have come close to that door, every time a conversation has drifted toward the past, or they have caught you looking at them with real curiosity about who they were, before you they have quietly, almost invisibly, changed the subject, or given you just enough of the story to seem open, without actually opening. They have become very practiced at this kind of careful management of information, not because they are dishonest by nature, but because the thought of you, knowing what happened to them, fills them with a terror that is hard to put into words. What they are afraid of is this. They are afraid that if you look too closely at what happened to them, you will see them differently. They are afraid that knowing they were deceived will make you see them as someone who was foolish enough to be fooled, as someone who was not worth staying faithful to, as someone who carries a kind of invisible damage that makes them less than what you deserve. They look at the light in your eyes, when you look at them, and they think quietly and painfully that if you really knew the full story, that light might dim. They think you might begin to look at them with pity, or with a kind of careful distance, the way people sometimes look at someone who has been through something terrible, with kindness, but also with a faint relief that it happened to them, and not to you. More than anything, they are terrified of losing the way you see them right now, which is the most whole and valuable and worthy they have ever felt in their entire life. So they carry it alone. They carry it in the silences between your conversations, in the moments when they grow quiet without explanation, in the way they sometimes pull back from you, just when things are getting beautifully close. You have noticed this, you have felt it, and wondered about it, and perhaps even worried about it, wondering if you said something wrong, or if they are losing interest, or if there is something about you that is pushing them away. There is not. The pulling back has nothing to do with you, and everything to do with the old wound that they are still, even now, trying to manage without letting you see. Now here is where this story goes somewhere you might not expect. Here is where the deeper truth enters, the one that the universe has been waiting for the right moment to reveal, because this truth requires a certain amount of openness to receive. The betrayal that broke your soulmate open, the devastating experience that shattered the world they had built with someone else and left them standing in the wreckage of everything they thought was real and permanent. That was not a random act of cruelty. It was not a senseless tragedy that the universe allowed to happen by accident or through indifference. It was orchestrated, it was deliberate, and the force behind its orchestration was, in a way that requires patience to fully understand, connected to you. Before we go any further, it is important to sit with that for a moment. It is important to let your heart be still and open and willing to receive something that might feel strange. At first, the way any truth feels strange, when it arrives in a form you were not expecting, because the universe does not always explain itself in ways that are immediately comfortable. Sometimes, the most profound truths look wrong on the surface, before they reveal their real shape, the way a seed looks like nothing, like a small dead thing, before the green shoots break through, and you understand what it was carrying all along. Here is what the spiritual realm knows, and what it wants you to hear today. Before you came into this lifetime, before your soul descended into the body you inhabit, and the name you carry, and the daily life you move through, you made a request. Your soul cried out from the place where all souls rest between their earthly journeys, and it asked for something enormous. It asked for growth, for the kind of deep and permanent growth that does not come from easy circumstances, but only from the kind of experiences that demand everything from you. It asked for elevation, for the chance to rise to a higher version of itself than it had been able to reach in previous lifetimes. And it asked for the path to be cleared, for whatever was standing in the way of your highest and brightest destiny to be removed. Even if the removal was painful, even if it required disruption and loss, and the kind of transformation that looks like destruction before it reveals itself as creation, the universe heard that request. The universe, which does not make promises lightly, and does not do things halfway, set about honoring it, and part of honoring it involved your soulmate, because your soulmate was meant to walk beside you in this lifetime, to be the companion of your soul, through the particular landscape of this particular human experience. But in order for them to reach you, truly reach you, they first had to be freed. They were anchored to something that was not right for them, invested in a connection that looked like love, but was actually a comfortable cage, a relationship that kept them in a version of themselves that was smaller and safer and more limited than what they were capable of being. And the universe knew that they would not leave on their own, not because they were weak, but because human beings almost never leave comfort on their own, even when the comfort is quietly suffocating them. We stay in what we know. We hold on to the familiar, even when the familiar is not serving us. We need something to push us out. So the universe allowed the betrayal. The universe permitted the person your soulmate was with to make the choices they made, to behave in the way they behaved, to cause the particular kind of pain that they caused. Not because that other person was a villain chosen by some divine casting director, but because that experience was the only thing powerful enough to break the attachment your soulmate had to a life that was never meant to be permanent. The cheating, the deception, the devastating discovery that everything they thought was true was not true. All of that was the storm that the universe sent to clear away what needed to be cleared. It was the fire that burned down the structure your soulmate had built their sense of security around, because that structure needed to come down before the real one, the one that includes you, could be raised in its place. Your divine light, the particular frequency of energy and love and destiny that belongs uniquely to you, acted as a spiritual magnet from across the distance. Your soul, already on its way into this lifetime, already moving toward its purpose, sent out a signal through the invisible currents of the universe, and that signal reached the world your soulmate was living in before you met them. It disrupted things. It introduced an instability into what had seemed like a stable situation, not through any conscious action on your part, because you were simply living your life, simply being who you are, but through the simple fact of your existence, and your approach, and the destiny that was written around your name, in the ledger of the spiritual realm. Your coming, your very existence in this lifetime, created a ripple that reached backward through time, and touched the life your soulmate was living with someone else. This is not a comfortable idea. It is not the kind of thing that fits neatly into a conventional understanding of how the world works. But the spiritual realm does not always operate within the boundaries that conventional understanding has set up. Time is not as linear up there as it appears to be down here. Cause and effect do not always move in the direction we expect. A soul can send out ripples that travel in ways we do not have adequate language to describe, touching lives and circumstances and decisions in ways that look from the inside like random events, but are anything but random when seen from the wider view that the universe holds. So when your soulmate was sitting in the ruins of what they thought was there forever, when they were crying in ways they had never cried before, when they were trying to understand how they had been so thoroughly deceived by someone they trusted so completely, they were actually being prepared. The universe was doing something to them, through that experience, that could not have been done any other way. It was stripping away the false sense of security they had built around that relationship. It was removing the comfortable illusion that had been keeping them from growing. It was teaching them, painfully and thoroughly, what love is not, so that when they finally encountered what love actually is, which is what they found when they found you, they would know the difference. With every cell in their body, they would feel the difference so profoundly that there would be no confusion, no question, no lingering doubt. Because they had stood in the wreckage of the counterfeit and survived it, they would be able to recognize the real thing with a certainty that no one who has only ever experienced easy love can quite access. The betrayal gave them that. It gave them a compass. It calibrated their heart to detect the difference between someone who is truly with them and someone who is merely performing the idea of being with them. It burned away the naivety that had made them vulnerable to the deception in the first place, not in a way that made them hard, or closed, or unable to love again, but in a way that made them more discerning, more attuned, more genuinely themselves, in the way they approach connection. They came out of that experience, after a long and difficult period of grief and confusion, and the slow, unglamorous work of rebuilding, as a deeper and more real version of who they had been before. And that deeper, more real version of them is the person who eventually stood before you. That is the person you fell in love with. The loss and the betrayal and the rebuilding were all part of what shaped them into someone capable of the kind of love they now share with you. But here is what heaven needs you to understand about the secret they are still carrying. The work that the universe did in their life through that experience, as necessary and as ultimately purposeful as it was, left marks. It left them with things that they carry even now, even in the middle of a love that feels safer and more real than anything they have known. They carry a small but persistent fear that it could happen again, that the beautiful thing they have with you is somehow too good, too pure, too wonderful to be trusted completely, because the last time they trusted something that felt wonderful, it turned out to be a lie. They carry a background hum of unworthiness, a quiet voice that whispers to them in vulnerable moments that they are not quite enough, that the fact of having been cheated on is evidence of some flaw in them that you will eventually notice and be disappointed by. They carry the learned reflex of holding something back, of not quite fully relaxing into happiness, because full relaxation into happiness was what preceded the greatest devastation of their life, and some part of them has associated those two things together, even though they know, intellectually, that the association is not fair or logical. These are the things they are hiding, not just the event of the betrayal, but the emotional residue it left behind, the way it changed their relationship to trust and safety, and the idea of being truly seen by another person. They are hiding all of this from you, because they love you, and they do not want to bring the weight of it into the beautiful space the two of you have created together. They see what you have built, and they want to protect it from the shadow of their past. They are trying to be the cleanest and brightest version of themselves for you, which is one of the most loving things a person can do, even if it means they are also keeping themselves from being fully known. And this is where you come in, not as someone who needs to fix them, or rescue them, or drag the secret out into the light before they are ready. Not as someone who needs to sit them down and tell them that you know what happened because the universe told you. But as who carries, without even having to try, the exact frequency of healing that their particular wound requires. The light that you carry, the same light that acted as a cosmic magnet in helping to bring them to you, is also the medicine that their heart has been waiting for since the moment the wound was made. You do not have to do anything dramatic with this knowledge. You do not have to perform healing or manufacture the right moments. You simply have to continue being who you are, which is, for them, the most extraordinary gift anyone has ever given them. When you create safety with your consistency, when you show up in the same way again and again, without dramatic variation, when you say what you mean, and mean what you say, and follow through on the small things, because the small things are where trust is actually built, you are doing more for the wound in their heart than any conversation about it could do. When you choose them quietly, and without fanfare, when you do the unglamorous daily work of showing up and being present, and caring about the details of their life, you are teaching their nervous system something that it learned the opposite of, in the experience of betrayal. You are teaching it that it is safe to relax. You are teaching it that the wonderful thing is allowed to continue, that it does not have to brace for the moment when everything becomes a lie. This is not work that happens all at once. The healing of a deeply planted wound does not happen in a single conversation or a grand gesture, or even in a year of good behavior. It happens the way all real healing happens, slowly and non-linearly, with progress and setbacks, and moments where it seems like nothing has changed, before a morning arrives, when suddenly something has shifted. And there is more light than there was before. You will notice it in small things, in the moments when they let their guard down a little further than they did before, in the way they laugh, without catching themselves, in the times when they reach for you, without hesitating, when they tell you something true about how they are feeling, without immediately pulling back from the vulnerability of having told you. Every one of those moments is the wound getting smaller. Every one of those moments is your presence, doing the work that the universe sent you here to do. There will be times when the old fear resurfaces. There will be moments when they pull back from you, and you cannot understand why, because nothing has happened, no fight, no misunderstanding, no reason that makes sense from the outside. What is actually happening in those moments is that they have bumped up against the old wound from the inside, that the intimacy of what you share has suddenly brought them very close to the place where they are most afraid, and most raw, and most uncertain of their own worth. When this happens, the most powerful thing you can do is stay. Not in a way that demands that they explain themselves or open up before they are ready, but in the way that a strong and patient presence stays, quietly and without drama, making it clear through the simple fact of your continued presence that you are not going anywhere, that their fear is not evidence of what they believe it is evidence of, that they are not too broken, or too damaged, or too marked by the past, to be fully loved by you right now in this moment. The universe wants you to know that you were given the light you carry for reasons that extend beyond your own growth and your own joy. Your light has always had a purpose that reaches into the lives of the people whose lives touch yours. And nowhere is that more true than in the life of the person who is your soulmate, the person who was literally prepared for you by a storm that your approaching destiny helped to send. The wound that the universe made in their heart in order to free them for you is yours to help heal. Not as a burden but as a privilege, not because you owe them anything, but because this is what love does. When it is real, it mends what was broken in the process of finding its way to where it belongs. Your soulmate is safe with you. They may not know this in their bones yet, because the bones take longer than the mind to receive a new truth, especially when the old truth they were given was as traumatic as theirs was, but they know it somewhere. In the place where the soul knows things that the conscious mind is still working to accept. They know it, and every day that you continue to be who you are, every day that you continue to show up with the consistency, and the care, and the quiet certainty that you carry, that knowing moves from the soul a little further into the bones and the body, and the daily experience of being alive. There is no need to rush this. The universe, which orchestrated something as vast and complex as clearing your soulmate's path to you before you ever met, is also patient. It understands that the healing of human wounds takes exactly as long as it takes, and that trying to accelerate the process often only pushes it further away. What is required of you is not speed or strategy, but simply the ongoing willingness to be present, to be real, to be the version of yourself that you most authentically are, which is already more than enough, which is in fact exactly what was ordered by the cosmic forces that put you two in the same world at the same time, and then arranged circumstances so that your paths would finally cross. There is one more thing that the spiritual realm wants to offer you today, one last piece of this larger picture that feels important for you to carry with you, the secret that your soulmate is holding. The wound they are still guarding is also the reason they love you with the particular depth and ferocity that they do. People who have been through the kind of devastation they went through do not love casually afterward. They cannot. They have paid too high a price to allow themselves to be casual about it. When they open their heart again, after something like that, when they allow themselves to feel again, and hope again, and trust again, it is an act of enormous courage that they may not even fully recognize as courage, because to them it simply feels like trying to move forward, but it is courage, and the love that comes out of that kind of courage, out of the decision to love again, after the worst possible reason not to, is one of the most powerful and most enduring kinds of love that exists in the human experience. This is the love they have given you. This is what is underneath. The quiet and the holding back, and the moments when they seem far away, even when they are standing right beside you. Underneath all of that is a love that survived something that should have made love impossible. A love that chose to live even after it had been given every reason to die. And it chose to live, specifically and particularly for you. Hold that. Let it sit in your chest for a moment and feel the weight of it, the beauty of it, the sheer extraordinary improbability of the fact that the two of you found each other through everything that happened before. The betrayal, the devastation, the rebuilding, the years of carrying a wound in secret, the slow and quiet journey toward being ready to love again. All of it led exactly here to you, to this, to the life the two of you are building together, which is exactly the life that the universe promised your soul before you ever came down to begin it. You do not have to say anything. You do not have to do anything different from what you are already doing. You simply have to know. Know what was sacrificed to bring them to you. Know what they carry, and hold gently in your awareness, even when they cannot yet speak it aloud. Know that the love they give you is more precious than you may have realized, because of everything it had to survive to reach you. And let that knowing live in the way you touch them and look at them, and choose them every single day, quietly and without explanation, in all the small and ordinary, and magnificent ways that love actually lives when it is real. The storm is over, they are home, and you, dear soul, are the reason they made it through.